So this is the week that we celebrate our patron saint, Saint Timothy, and we celebrate our community that takes him as our patron. Saint Timothy, not much we know about him from the scriptures. I remember my spiritual director in the seminary, Father Hennessy, and the Mundelein Facebook page just posted this quote that he's often known for saying, and he's still teaching. He's getting very elderly now, kind-hearted, good man, very devout. And he said this: "You are an unrepeatable instance of God's unfailing love." You, each and every one of you and me, are an unrepeatable instance of God's unfailing love. Why does Timothy do what he does in the scriptures? Paul says to him in the second letter to Timothy, you have been given something that's altogether precious. Guard it with the help of the Holy Spirit that lives within us. You, Timothy, have been given something altogether precious. Guard it with the gift of the Holy Spirit that is within us. See, he knows that his flock, then and now, are precious. And he sends, through his intercession, the power of the Holy Spirit to protect us. Who was Timothy? Timothy was somebody that was born in Lystra, which is in Asia Minor, now in Turkey. And by some means, his grandmother Lois received the gospel and converted, a Jewish woman, and converted. And then her daughter, Eunice, his mother, also heard the word and converted. He was born of a Jewish mother and a Greek father, which means he had mixed ethnicity, which would have been a hindrance for him in his time. And I think about this all the way up until the 70s and maybe beyond. You know, we've been talking about racial inequality and racism and so forth. And he would have dealt with this. And Paul talks to him about this in the letters. He's like, no, stand strong. You are carrying the message of the gospel. And Timothy was known to be very reserved, even timid. And it could have been because of that. I remember from the 70s, Cher Bono singing this song, wrote this song called Half Breed. And I had a chance to go on YouTube and review it last night after I preached the 5 p.m. homily. And this is the racism he would have probably dealt with. She said, half-breed, that's all I ever heard. Half-breed, how I learned to hate the word. Because she had mixed ancestry too. She had some Cherokee ancestry, and I believe her father was Armenian. And so she had to deal with this mixed ethnicity and the fallout from that. And she sings this in the song. And so I think of Timothy and what he had to deal with. Nonetheless, somehow he encounters Paul when Paul's on a missionary journey, and he starts to follow in Paul's footsteps as a protege. Paul takes him on these missionary journeys. Believed that he spent about 15 years with Paul. And in the letters that Paul writes to Timothy, he deals with all kinds of things. He deals with qualifications for what it is to be a bishop and a deacon in the church, deals with marriage, deals with drinking too much. And he even talks about, can you believe it's in the Bible, saying grace before a meal. So in the time of Timothy, there were the Judaizers, the Jews that came into the Christian community, but they wanted to hold on to all this from the ancestral laws from the past, especially the dietary laws. And Paul's telling them, no, that's all fallen away. All things are permitted to be eaten as long as you say grace before your meal. And you're like, wow, there's Paul affirming what we do even to the present day, saying grace before a meal. Eventually, Timothy winds up in Ephesus. He's appointed in Ephesus as the pastor, as the shepherd, as a bishop, we would call it in today's time, and their time too, because Paul refers to the bishops in the episkopos in the Greek in his writings, and what a bishop should be and what he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be a man that's a drunkard. He shouldn't be a man that's shifty. He should be honest and straightforward, as Timothy was. Ephesus was known for a lot of things. I mean, there was prostitution happening there. There was goddess worship happening there. You can see evidence of this even if you visit Ephesus to the present day. There was an intellectual tradition there. The library in Ephesus, what's left of it, is pretty, at least the buildings are pretty impressive. But Timothy goes there to take care of what is precious by the power of the Holy Spirit, because he knows that each and every one of his flock is an unrepeatable instance of God's unfailing love. I asked myself over these many years about our community, what is it about St. Timothy's that even though priests have come and gone, the community persists, and the passion that's here for Christ persists, and the enthusiasm and the joy and the commitment persists. And for me, what's come to me is it is the spirit of St. Timothy and his intercession that continues in this community to the present day. Today we celebrate our patron and we celebrate our community as we remember that we have something altogether precious that we need to guard with the power of the Holy Spirit here at St. Timothy's. And we remember that each and every one of us is an unrepeatable instance of God's unfailing love.